Hello again. Okay, so this lesson is about the water cycle, which similar to carbon, water, which is an essential part, something for every living organism, it goes round and round in a cycle. But before we get to that, we'll do the quick recap from previous lessons. So pause for a minute, 5 questions. See if you can answer those on your own. Have a go first, and then you'll mark them in a second. Okay, hopefully you've paused. So there's your answers. Decomposer, detrivore, the main processes in the carbon cycle, the word equation for respiration, and then some biotic and abiotic factors. If that's now sticking in your mind, brilliant. And if you found that quite easy, that's great. If it's not, maybe just add to the answers you already put. Maybe add them in a different colour, so when you look back on it, you'll think, I didn't get that first time round. Because building this up over time and storing it in your brain is what it's all about. Okay. So you might be thinking, why do I need to do the water cycle? I did this when I was in year 6, and I did this in geography, maybe in year 8. And how many times have I done it? I don't know. Sometimes at primary school as well, you actually make one in a bottle, etc. So it's just based around the fact that water evaporates, or water is given out from respiration from living things, plants and animals, all living organisms with respiration. That water ends up in the air, it condenses, you know that word already hopefully up here, so condensation, and when it condenses it falls back to the ground as rain. That process is called precipitation. So the main processes are the water evaporates, it condenses, it precipitates, and it goes round and round. Now, as part of the ecology topic, we're looking at it from a just had my hand in the way there for a minute. Oh, there it is. We're looking at it from a slightly different perspective, and also it's a little bit more complex than this. So moving on.
Water is essential for all living organisms, plants and animals, and it makes up 60% or higher of the mass of all cells.
So fresh water, absolutely essential for all living things. And if you think about it, just as pure drinking water, and that's not water that's so what they call potable water, and you'll learn more about that in chemistry, but pure drinking water or portable drinking water, it's how much do you use every day? How much do we take it for granted that it's just there, that it's been cleaned, that it's suitable for us to drink, that it's healthy? And I know we think, oh, it's just turn the tap on and get the water. There's lots of places in the world where that's not so freely available. So we take this water out of the tap. How much do we use? How much do we waste? How often do we leave a tap on? How often do we overflush a toilet, fill a bath to the top? And we're a little bit lucky really with our weather patterns and with the water availability, also with the systems that provide us with fresh water in this country. Now, going back to the water cycle, so the water rains on land, hopefully, and obviously flows off down rivers, etc. And quite often we build dams across these to store that fresh water so that we can use it even in periods when the weather's dry. And like I say, we're quite lucky in this country that we get quite a large amount of rainfall, and we've got quite nice mountainous areas and big rivers so that we can actually store quite a lot of water. But we still have water shortages now and again where we have to be a bit careful about it. And the main reason that the water cycle is essential to start thinking about now is we've got a growing population. More and more people means we need more and more fresh water available, but it also means that we need more and more food. And to grow that food, obviously, we need to provide the water for the plants if it's not going to rain enough. So for irrigation, especially in some hot countries where there isn't the rain. So what do we do to it? Some countries are very good at cleaning their water and keeping it that way, and it goes through many processes after it's been through factories and after it's been through cities, and it's got all the sewage and everything, and it goes off to a sewage plant. So some countries are very good at cleaning their water up. Others, some of the raw sewage and some of the waste can get pumped straight back into the water. That means that goes into the rivers or directly into the sea, and then it flows into the sea. And of course, there's living organisms there that we are endangering. With landfill, the issue here really is that all of this rubbish that we've got here gets buried, and it gets buried in the ground, and the rain that falls on the ground goes through the soil and forms the water table. So underground, where a lot of the water comes from, the water table is being polluted because the landfill, as it breaks down, any dangerous chemicals and stuff will end up getting into the water supply. So actually we could end up poisoning ourselves. So the more we can reduce landfill, the more we can recycle and reuse, rather than just dumping stuff somewhere, burying it out of sight and hoping that it all goes away. Actually, that might come back to haunt us. Similarly, there's been lots in the press over the years about the use of, or the amount of plastic and waste that is ending up in the oceans. And because plastic is artificially made and it's a polymer, lots of plastics either don't break down or they take an awful long time to break down. So those are being taken up by aquatic animals, by fish, etc. Some of them just simple things like getting caught in the parts of the body, but some of them get into the body and can poison them.
So much aquatic life relies upon having clean water. So, can you please stop putting your rubbish and your waste in it? Thank you.
Okay, now I've deliberately left the key words for the day until later on. And from the key words point of view, if you think about, there's a key word that you should have used a lot in science before: condensation. Turning in the clouds, turning back from a water vapor to a liquid for when it rains. So that one, I would think, that's fairly straightforward, everybody knows already. Same with evaporation. So evaporation, where water turns from a liquid to a gas, happening at the surface of most water systems, rivers, lakes, the ocean. So that's how the water gets into the air. Then we've got the fact that respiration, when we talked about respiration before and releasing carbon dioxide, every time you've ever written out respiration, it releases carbon dioxide and water. So all living things also release water vapor, and that goes back into the system, round and round the cycle. And now, precipitation may have been new to you in today's lesson. So let's change colour. Why not? So precipitation here is water released from the clouds, whether that's rain, snow, whatever. Transpiration is the movement of water through a plant. So when you did photosynthesis, we should have learned that plants have little holes in their leaves where water escapes from, and water flowing in through the roots of a plant and out through the little holes, the stoma in the leaves, that's transpiration. So transpiration is probably a new word. I would suggest that that goes in your glossary. Precipitation, I think that one's probably one for the glossary. And then the last one, percolation. What a lovely word. I'm going to use it more. That's when water trickles through the soil, and some soils are really good. The water percolates really quickly through the soils because there's lots of gaps, and it moves down through the soil and gets deep into the ground. Whereas other soils and clays are really, really tightly packed. So therefore a lot of the water doesn't actually go into it, it just runs straight off the surface. That will go off and quickly go into rivers, etc., but it won't penetrate the ground, so the water won't be stored in that ground for a long time. Okay, so when we did this back in the carbon cycle, just pointing out there's the water in a living thing, some of it ending up in the feces and urine. Here's the water from a living thing ending up back, and I know this is the carbon cycle diagram, but actually all those times when there was either respiration happening and combustion happening, just like the carbon cycle, they both release water. So all the time, all the combustion and stuff, we're increasing the amount of water in the atmosphere. And if you remember, there were 3 gases that caused global warming. One of them was carbon dioxide, one was methane, and the third one was water vapor. So actually, water vapor in the environment, too much of it in the air, is not a great thing because it will contribute towards global warming. Okay, this is probably where hopefully you've paused already. This might be where you want to pause. This might be the diagram that you do. It might be a really good idea to have this diagram, and then next to it, what you could do is, what does percolation mean? What does precipitation mean? What does condensation mean? What does evaporation mean? And what does transpiration mean? So the only thing missing from this diagram, I would suggest, and you might want to add it in yourselves, is that all living things return water to the environment when they do respiration. So that's probably one worth adding on. Okay. Pause. What processes enables animals to release water back into the environment? Okay. Cells made up of 60% or more of water because of the chemicals reactions happening inside them, the cytoplasm. Why is water important to all living things? Well, most of a cell is made up of water. That's where all the chemical reactions happen. Most of your blood is made up of water. So within every living organism, water is an absolutely essential thing to have a good supply of. And then think back about that diagram you've just done. Can you name them in order? So you've got the evaporation from the oceans, then you've got the condensation, then it falls as what? So try and remember the 6 in order. Can you do it from memory, or do you need to look back at the diagram? And hopefully over time this gets better. Okay. So just in summary, water availability, the temperature on the planet, the amount of water in the atmosphere, the amount of rainfall, and the amount of space of the planet. And if you look at the globe diagram here, you can see that here, the tropical climates, where it's warmest and hottest, and you probably get either lots of monsoons and heavy rainfall depending, or you get really dry areas. With global warming, they're the areas that could become more of a desert over time, and water in the air could actually contribute to that. And then last thing, you've got a summary here. You can pick one of the options. If you're keen, if you're one of those people that are going above target, if you're trying to get that highest possible grade, you might choose more than one of the options. So any of the work you've done, the diagrams, the explanations, the answers to the questions, even those recap ones at the beginning, if you could take photos or however you do it, screenshots, and submit that through to your teacher, that would be amazing. Thank you very much.